Welcome back. So this is part 2 of the burnished project that I'm making, that I made in this little kid's bowl. And it sat out in the sun for about half an hour, and I turned it around every once in a while, every 5 to 10 minutes, because I was around. And be careful not to leave your stuff in the sun too long. It'll get too dry. It is now soft leather hard, so I can still bend it, but it's nowhere near as soft and sticky as it was before. The other thing you might notice is that it's shrunk away from the bowl a little bit. I don't know if you can see that right there. So let's see if it comes out. I got all that oil in there. Doop. So it's all oily. And so that's a success in that regard. That was that skirt that I was talking about, that little line. And I'm going to leave that. So I'm going to put it back in the form and continue building. So I prepared my coils in the meantime while it was drying. So I just wrapped them in plastic. If you roll your coils, don't leave them out or on a dry board. They're really going to not work too well after a little while. Keep them wrapped in plastic. And then because this is firmed up, I need to do a little more work to put on the next, before I put on the next coil. And my scoring tools and maybe a sponge or a wet brush are going to be my tools. So put those there. And so I like to start by adding water to the upper rim where I'm going to add the coil. If you score first, you get a bunch of chips everywhere. If you want to keep things clean, add water first and then use a scratcher of some sort. You can use your needle tool, fork. You know what works good is like a cocktail fork or something, not too big. I'm going to use the serrated rib for starters, and I'm going to put down some more water. A little bit of water's dripping, that's okay. Just be careful not to get too much. If I got a little too much water in the inside, my sponge, you get it out of there. Don't leave a lake of water on the inside. I'm going to switch to this scratcher and really build up some slip. So this is scoring and slipping, basic hand building, which is whenever the clay has been firmed up to the leather hard stage, you need to score and slip. You're putting a handle on a piece, you're adding coils to firmed up clay. That's how you do it. So now I'm going to take a big coil here, get it prepped, quite ready. I want a little bit stickier surface there, so I'm going to go ahead and put on one more round of water. Okay. And now I'm going to add my coil. And you remember I talked about adding it to the inside. I'm going to see what this form does for me. I might bring it out a little bit. And so here's a long coil. And I can add the coil kind of little by little now because I have a firm base to push into. So it's a little different than I did before because I couldn't really squish it on until I had the whole thing on before. Now I have a firmer base to work on. Here's my overlap. Cut through both of those. Get rid of that one and that one. And it's a little bit long. It's better to be a little bit short, actually, than too long often, because when it's short, you can push it into each other. If it's too long, it'll spread the thing out. Okay, so you could blend this in as one coil, but it's better, I think, to do a couple. So this time, I don't need to score it because it's a soft coil. Now this coil is not the greatest because I just kind of got them set up in my stash there, and often I'll do a final roll right before I put it on to get it to the thickness that you want. Now if you make thicker coils, you can always pinch them thinner after you place it on, or you can do a thinner coil and just be really gentle with how you work the clay, because the thinner is tougher, moves around a lot. So there we go. Grab my knife, cut through here. So this looks familiar, right? The only difference is, whoopsie, that had to score and slip that first round. Okay, so let's do 2 this time. And I'm gonna start this time on the inside. So like I said, you can do it either way. It's hard to get down sometimes, but I can do it. I'm going down. If you can go down, do it, because it'll compress it much better. The reason why it's hard is because I'm bumping the other side of it. But my tool can fit right in there. This hand is supporting the outside, and I'm pressing, and this tool is great for compressing in the coils. You use like the back of the spoon side, not the side that cuts in, but the side that compresses. And you push it in there and blend in the clay. So we'll start on the inside, and that'll give me a good solid bond, and then I can work the outside maybe after a few more coils. So the reason why I was thinking of not doing too many is because if I do too much, it's harder to access deeper down, right? But if you just do it little by little, because I'm closing this form off a bit, right? So I went around, and now I can take my finger. Eventually I'm going to close this completely. So the finished piece, and that's great for burnishing. I would suggest pieces that are more closed tend to work better because it's the outside surface that does the magic in the firing. So now I could blend the outside coils, or I can add more and blend all the outsides together, which I think is a better idea. Save me some time. All right, get these strips out of the way. This one here, give it a roll. All right, so this time sticking it on there and on the inside a little bit. I don't like the end of that. I'm going to pull that away. And there was my old seam. It's good to stagger the seams. If you don't stagger the seams, just blend it really well and you'll probably be okay. All right, sticking that on. And my finger or the paintbrush is fine. Got a little drop of water in there. Get it out of there. Last chance to kind of fix any major problems that I see on the inside. So one little tiny divot right here, probably a seam or something. And, oops, that was a messy tool. When in doubt, blend the clay in. All right, so getting a little ahead of myself here. Going to be long enough? So if it's not quite long enough, just make it a little longer by rolling it just a little tiny bit. Plenty long now. All right, so my last overlap for this section of coil building. And then I'm going to close it off and hopefully finish this piece in this video, or at least the main forming of the piece. Of course, there's a lot more to do afterwards, burnishing and otherwise. So it's trickier for me to get in there with the tool because it's becoming closed off, which is a sign that I'm going to add a different type of form on top, not a coil, but a little pinch pot to finish it off. Because when you get smaller and smaller, you can coil. You can keep coiling if you want, but it's hard to do on the inside to have access. Okay, so I blended down. Now I'm actually going to blend up with my finger on top, just like I did on the bottom thing, because I just kind of do what feels like it's going to work better to start up or down, and then it's good to do the other way. But remember, if you pull up too much, you might just rip the coil off, so my finger's there to hold that. So you'll hear me say it a million times. Always have your other hand on the opposite side of the pressure whenever possible. Okay? Cool. Okay, so the other thing that I did in the middle is I made this little mound of clay. This is actually hollow, and it's like a bowl stuck on there, and I had it drying in the sun. Oh, there you go. So it looks like that, really thick and pushed down because it was a pinch pot. I can clean it up a little bit. And I'm gonna use this for the top. I made it extra big because I'm gonna cut it down there. So I'm kind of making a preliminary plan here before I blend those coils, because I might want to shape those a little differently. So that's kind of standing by, and then now I'm going to blend those coils. And I like to really blend with this scoring tool first, and then the wooden knife. So I've kind of blended those 4 coils into each other going down. Start at the top. And then I'm going to do one more round with this scratcher at a little different angle, blending it into the firmer bottom that firmed up in the sun. And my hand's there to support, right? You guys can probably see this. It may look like I'm really making a mess of it, like shredding the clay. That's good, because once I blend that and compress it back in doing so, like I had pressure out here, I might look back in there and notice that there might be some seams exerting themselves, showing themselves. So good to go back and pay attention to that. Okay, now it's spread out a little bit too. When you blend it, that's what tends to happen. So let's see how this goes here. Sometimes the tool gets a little dry. Sometimes it can not work great. So clean off the tool if there's dry bits of clay, and then works better. Wooden tools are great on clay that's not too firm, right? If it firms up a lot, you might have to use a metal tool. But wood's great because it draws the moisture out of the clay, so it doesn't tend to stick too much. Or if you use a metal tool on really soft clay, the metal's so slick that sometimes it kind of sticks. And it could work, but it could be a problem. Okay, so I'm pretty well blended. Making my volcano here. Okay, so now if I stuck this on top, it's like really a funny looking volcano. It's needs to be cut down, and I have this idea here. These plates are kind of handy. I'm going to put the plate here. How can I cut it evenly? I'm going to use a tool. Use this one to mark it. I'm going to ride on the surface of this and just hold it and spin this plate around. All right, that worked out pretty good. So I got a line drawn, and then now I can do the same with the actual metal knife to cut through. Now you can probably figure out a way to do this without this step of the process. This is just how I did it. You can make a pinch pot directly. So my pinch pot is thicker than my wall for sure. That's good. So that lined up a lot better. Cool. And so now I'm going to pinch this thinner because it's just kind of the bottom edge. That was a little bit thicker than I needed it to be. And I'm going to go in there, and it's pretty soft, this pinch pot. If you don't know what I'm talking about, pinch pot, watch the first video that I did during this at-home time of the semester. And I put 2 pinch pots together, which is another way to do it, to make a closed form for the teapot. And you could do that for your coil, for your burnished piece. You don't have to use the coil building, but the coil building gives you more options. You can go up really high, right? All right, so I really stretched it out, and so it flops over. And so now, set that down here. I need to prepare this. Now, if I needed to, I could let this firm up, right? But not too much, because I really want to blend these two together. But I could do it just like I did the first and second rounds. So now I'm scoring up this surface. Even though this clay isn't that firm, when I'm adding this, I can't get my hand on the inside of this one. So I need to do an extra good job of getting it really sticky, because I'm closing the form off, so I can only access it from the outside. And so I'm kind of thinning the edge of that and getting it really sticky. And I'm going to give it one more round of water. And then, hopefully, this works. So I'm going to stick it on there gently. You can see there's a big overlap there. And just kind of start to compress it. Now if I trap the air, it'll keep the shape better. It won't collapse so much. So now I'm going to use my thumb. I could use the tool, but my thumb is handy. Oh, maybe I'll switch. If the thumb doesn't quite get the clay to blend, then you can take your thumb, get this in water, clean that a little bit, put it inside of that, and then it's a much more firm surface. This has been out in the sun a little bit, so it's a little bit firmer than the bottom clay. So I'm going to have to really work at this blending. So we'll start here. This will get us started. I could have grabbed that scratcher and done it with that at this stage, but I'm going to do one round with this. See, this was a little softer over here because the sun was directional, and it worked better. Firmness makes a big difference, right? But there's actually a lot of times that things work. It's just that you might feel a different response from the clay. So you saw how it overlapped a lot, right, when I stuck that thing on there, but as I'm blending it in, that overlap is being blended into the other section. So this is where it needs a little help, is right over here. So I'm going to attack this. Well, the parts feel pretty good, but just for good measure, I'll do a quick amount here. Okay. And this was the side that really needed it. Sometimes a little bit of water on the wooden tool will help blend that. So what is it that I'm making here? It's closed form. So I could actually play around with the shape in a moment. It's fun. It's not necessarily pottery as a vessel. It's similar to pots, though, that it's closing space off. All right, so now I'm using this side to blend it in. And I could also maybe see some shaping happening right now, just based on the blending process. So like it pushes it upwards a little bit when I lift this up. So for burnishing, I do want to have a smooth surface. You don't have to have the entire thing be totally smooth. You can leave areas textured and try to burnish over them, or you can leave them unburnished in some areas. But don't make it a really textural piece all around. It doesn't really make much sense to burnish. I'm going to use this serrated rib. It's a smaller one, and I can kind of shape it and do one more round here. And so I often will use a serrated tool and then use a smooth tool, and that's how you can get rid of a lot of lumps. It's like raking the ground with a rake and then some kind of smooth tool. See, like this is kind of kicking in a little bit right there. That's fine. That's going to be part of its shape. Let me get a little organic shape going on. I wonder if this is a good tool. Yeah, this is a piece of metal that I found. Not a clay tool, a piece of spring steel, and seems to work for my purpose at the moment. I'm gonna actually do the finishing touches on the surface on the next video as I prepare it for burnishing. But I want to get it pretty good now, so we can look at it. Okay, so if I was kind of nearing completion here and I left this enclosed, that is not going to work. You have to poke an air hole in your piece. It could be a small air hole, like a pinhole in the bottom, but I'm going to actually poke a hole as part of the design. Sometimes one bit of water. Be careful with too much water, but a little bit, just to smooth. That'll be good. Okay, like I said, I'll do some refinement later. So when the air is closed off, I can actually push on it. And what I'm going to do is take this metal bar. So right now it's just kind of a round lump. And I'm just going to go straight. Yeah. Do in the corner here. You guys can't see. I'm pushing into it. Slide that out. So I left a mark there. And then I'm gonna leave it like that. And then I'll finish it after it firms up. I'll cut the hole. Cut the hole now, it might mess it up because it's really soft. But I'm kind of okay with the basics here. Of course, to get a look at it, I need to take it out of the base. So, like that. So now, let's see what I came up with here. It's still soft in the bottom. I'm going to let it kind of sit. So it's a lot more organic than initial structure because of the softness that it's at now, taking it out, setting it down and shaping it. So I'm going to end it here and we'll meet again.